Let me start, and I should also probably say that it's more of a data science focused talk. I'm myself a data scientist, and let me probably just get familiar with the audience and just start to jump on the bandwagon and ask who are data scientists here, if we have any at all. Okay, we have a few people. And who are in general familiar with MVP and were ever tasked or built MVP? Okay, many people. Okay, maybe you're more qualified than me, you can learn something. But hopefully I will also be able to I will introduce, describe my experience with building MVP in my company. So it's like a still a process. We are changing it, developing, and yeah, hopefully this would be useful for you today. So let me go on the second slide. And before I go, I walk through the agenda, I want to give a bit of a background story. And last year we were tasked with a project at my work to build a product. It was sort of a recommendation system. And we jumped on it, we built many models, and the end result was a combination of these models. So one model result, a machine learning model fed into another, and then we getting some recommendations. And also there are no ground truth data, and we needed somehow to measure it and say to our product managers because they were pinging us, how is it like good, are we ready to productionize these results? And we weren't sure because the results are kind of domain specific. It was hard for us without domain knowledge to evaluate the quality, and there was no ground truth. And the idea of MVP with building UI arose. And here I want to walk you through first just defining what is general MVP and in the context of data science, and then also when UI is needed to be built, and also walk a bit through how to build appealing UI. And it's a talk targeting data scientists without front-end development skills. So I will walk through modern web application development frameworks for without who can just a person without front-end development skills can start using. And also I will talk a bit about how to test results of your machine learning system or model using UI, how to integrate feedback into UI and gather it to use further for retraining maybe of your model, and during testing of new models. And also, finally, I will talk a bit about hosting applications in the cloud internally. And before going to the main topic, let's again describe who is a data scientist nowadays. And if briefly saying about what we do is that we take some data, we transform this data into some insights. These insights can be expressed in the form of a model, or it can be REST API endpoint, or it can be graphs, models, tables, Confluence documentation, anything that produces some value from data. But in some degree, we can also be product managers or product owners, because nobody else in our organization knows that data better than us. We can really shape a product, define if it's suitable data for producing desirable outcomes. If yes, why? If no, why? So we need to be able to shape results and to explain it to different stakeholders. And also we, in some sense, are developer advocates, especially if there are no technical product managers on your team. You need to be able to communicate with software engineers. You also sometimes communicate externally, participating in some events. And also, you can also be a machine learning engineer. And nowadays, machine learning engineering is branched into a separate role very often. But very often as well, data scientists are becoming like a full-stack data scientists who are starting from prototyping a model, then the prototyping, delivering, like building a model, then delivering into staging, production, maintaining, and covering with unit tests. And in this sense, we also need to know good software development practices. We need to know how to write a good and clean code that can be understandable and maintainable in the long term. And on the right side, here's my just interpretations of who can also be data scientists sometimes, especially if you are a research data scientist who are more of a PhD data scientist. So we plug and play, or we develop new algorithms for machine learning, and sometimes results can be very unpredictable, as depicted in this picture, produced by DALI Mini. I didn't bother myself to go and try real DALI, so I just went to Hugging Face and tried DALI Mini. And here's an example of a query for image generation. And the query was, I don't know if you can see the query, it was a turtle ninja near the magician head, but the result of this query produced that Data Ninja is inside this magician head. So it sometimes like depicts like what can happen without modeling. Results can be so unpredictable. But what I'm trying to say with this, all these points, that sometimes we're wearing many hats, and we don't want to bother ourselves with learning also like how to be front-end developer, learning Flask or JavaScript. If we need to deliver UI and show it to be understandable by our internal stakeholders, or sometimes external if you are working in consultancy, by like delivering MVP with UI. And here, my next point is that as Christopher Columbus, we are often tasked with some like discover America or build MVP, and we say easy, and easy in the sense that we can use modern low-code web application frameworks to start early on developing UI and quickly produce a result that is useful in our organizations. So, okay, so what is MVP? MVP came from a startup world when you are producing with limited budget and time constraints, produce some quick prototype of your product, and you show it to stakeholders. And for data scientists, it's quite similar in some sense that we also can build prototypes of end result. But usually our stakeholders are our like product managers or other teams. And is it always required building UI? No, it's not always required. In some cases, just repeat your notebooks, showcase or graphs, copy-paste in in reports, documentation, they may suffice. But what UI does, it brings the hidden abstract models to life for all stakeholders to see results and play with inputs and outputs. And here are some criteria which I came up with when UI is useful. And if there are 2 or more criteria are met, then it would be useful to have UI with results of modeling. The first one is machine learning analytics product design is not yet established. And the results outcomes are, we can't say what it would be. Their front-end development works, they front-end developers in our company, they still even don't know about the product, what is going to be. And we, in the sense, we are early adopters and delivering results of work. Also, when outcomes of data modeling are not trivial, in our case, it was that we have one model, we then fed into another model, and then another model, and results are not really obvious from this. And also, when there are no ground truth data available, and we need eyeball results. The first one is that there are many solutions are developed. We need also to test them. And again, when there are no ground truths, we need find a different way to do it. And the fifth one is that when machine learning product is multi-compound, again, as I described, there are many components, not necessarily AI, we combine it all together and replicate the production environment with our work. And the last one is it will benefit from user feedback. Again, we can gather feedback, we can build ground truth data, and we can use it to improve our models or our pipeline. And here's a list of the most popular Python low-code application frameworks. And the first one is mostly the oldest one and the most developed. And it's called fully-fledged. It started in 2017, and it has the largest support community among all other options, and a wide range of widgets. And it still has, even with that, it has its disadvantages. And I didn't find an easy way, for example, to integrate user feedback functionality without digging into code itself, into Flask code. And also, there are enterprise version available, and widgets that I wanted, they were not available in the open source version. But in some sense, it's a most intuitive framework because it has callbacks and you can, has many components. It's because it has more components, it's more verbose, but also more intuitive. In comparison to the next one, it's called Streamlit. It started in 2019 and it's built upon Tornado web application, another web application library, which is supports simultaneous calls, and it's started by ex-Googlers, I believe. And up to this date, it's really develops rapidly. Even last year, if you read articles from previous year, maybe there would be outdated already because it's even last year it very rapidly developed. And it's less verbose than fully-fledged, and it has concurrency and cache support as well, which was what I needed. And but it has a fewer number of widgets and does require some time to learn its own syntax. Because of its simplicity, it has a notion of states, and it's linear. It provides a linear execution, and I will talk about it a bit later. And the last one is Gradio, the newest one, and it's supported by Hugging Face, is our Streamlit. And it's because it's a new one, it has less support community, less documentation, and but always need to keep up an eye on this framework because it's a new one, and it's mainly supported by Hugging Face. If you know, Hugging Face is the largest hub community of models that you can plug and play, and the most popular for their Hugging Face libraries. Okay, so here's an example of the app in Streamlit. And it's a bit simplified version of our internal tool because I couldn't show or talk about our internal tool. So I replaced it with a books recommendation. And here I will play it. So here we have 50K books from Booklib. Oh, I forgot the name of the website. And here we can enter, for example, conference trip. I want to read some book about conference trip or on the conference trip, also genre. And we see that it allows tagging and auto-completion for tags. And here we get book recommendations. Yeah, hopefully you can see them. And yeah, so that's it. And if going to internal blocks of it, it's the first one, we just load data. And what really great about it is that it caches massive data samples. In my case, like for example, there were also models I needed to load, and it caches it among users. So if you load it and you run a query, this query would be saved, and a next user who would also use this web application, they will use a cached result. And here we can see how we can add it with using generics. And here okay, so I can use the pointer. The old one was using stcache, but the new one, which I believe was introduced this year, we can use experimental memo and singleton. Singleton is something that we can't really store in database. It's some object, for example, database object. And for memo, it's an object that can be stored in a database. It's data, taxonomy, and so on. Okay, next one. And so here we're creating main blocks of our code. And as you saw in the demo, there's a sidebar, which is very easy to create, select box, check boxes. And also what I talked about, session state, it's an object that helps us to modify the event state, because when you execute some widget, it goes to that widget part in your code and starts all over again executing from that part. But you can modify this execution flow by having session states. And here's an example of how it can be used. So you create a session state, press first button. And if you know Python, you know that there are global variables that you can define. And this is, in some sense, is also a global variable because its state is saved between sessions. And we defined a state which is called press first button. And when we go into this block of code, we click submit button, we go and execute the rest of the code. But when we define the session state and it defined to a state of a true, we don't need to click submit button all the time. We can just, it allows us to, it remembers the state and it goes and continues the execution of our code. So this is like a basic, but you can read about it more on official documentation. And let's go next. And here also it allows us to have a user input. And as I described, we can have an auto-completion for tags. It is quite fast and it's useful. And here's like just example of genres, but it maybe it was something that was crucial in our internal demo. And here's how you define it with AST tags, which you can import. Okay, let's go next and let's show how we can define also, we can show a table. For example, we select some book from our repository, which is Animal Farm by George Orwell, and we want to get similar books recommendations to this book. Oops, okay, we want to go faster. So we're getting this book description and book title, and then I feed it to semantic search, semantic similarity model, which is in our case this Distilbert, MS Marco Distilbert based TASB model from Hugging Face. And then I get like recommendations. Yeah, so, yeah, I'll just scroll it. And it's usually like it's faster. I probably put a different demo here. Okay, so here we go to recommendations for other books, and it's actually quite good. So we have this, all other 1948, Heart of the, so quite good recommendations. So we can have this table as well, and this shows how to write a code for it. It's a grid code. Again, you can import and use it in this way. And I will not, so this is also, you can use multiple. It means we can select multiple choices like from our input, or a single choice from a table using checkboxes. So yeah, all this functionality allows us to show table, select a row, and find similar recommendations. And finally, it's like a feedback collection. And here we can say with Benjamin Franklin words, like by failing to prepare, preparing to fail. There could be like a good separate topic on it, why and how to do testing of machine learning models in production, because it can be quite different from software engineering testing. And here's just a couple of points why feedback collection is useful. And it's when we have like multiple machine learning models in a pipeline. And the second criteria is that no or limited ground truth data is available. In this case, like we will benefit from user feedback. And here's the example of providing. How much time do we have? Five. Okay, great. Yeah, so finishing mostly. Oops, play. So here we select evaluation mode, and then we again type conference trip input. We get recommendations, and then we get an additional field with feedback. So if we consider it looks good, we click a button, sum up. Okay, feedback submitted. And then in this case, I saved it as a plain JSON tape object, but it also can be saved into database. It's work in progress for us. And you can query, for example, by username, for me, like my initials, and get results of feedback. So here's how you're saving your feedback. And, okay, it find it back. Okay, so here's the implementation of this feedback. You having a dictionary object where you store your results. And here how you get it, you have buttons, sum up, sum down. And you, when you click in, you save its state. And then you send it to a storage file. In our case, it's just a simple storage with a tape of JSON objects. But again, it can be done and saved to a database. And web application deployment, I'll just quickly show it. We deploy it now, like whatever cloud you are using in your company, you can deploy it there. It's very straightforward to do on a virtual machine with any provider. And you can also Dockerize it with whatever Dockerization framework you are familiar with. And again, like container orchestration, we've done it, but it's then decided not to go it further because it's not really necessary if it's not not be widely used. So it may be overkill, but again, it can be done. So that's it. So we covered in the talk the concept of MVP in relation to data science work and why and when it's needed to be done. How to do it, and how to gather feedback and do evaluation. After we got all this feedback, we what we did internally. We gathered and we used it to see where problems with our models and to retrain and tweak our models. So you can use it in any way. If you have active learning framework, you can use it for automatic retraining of models. And then web application deployment, how it can be done, and it's quite also straightforward. And so if saying something like as a call to action for data scientists is that don't afraid of when you are set to build UI, because it can be easy done with modern web application frameworks, which doesn't require writing a lot of code. And also, you can relate your cloud provider and VPN to access to your hosting apps in the cloud for internal company usage. And then you can also add a user feedback capability and start collecting feedback from domain experts in your organization. And then you can get stakeholders buy-in with early demos and Q&A in your organization. And that's it. Thank you very much.